making a run at it, aren't you? Rolling up a steak and going to Vegas.
Welcome to the #1 poker radio show in the world. This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. 1 full hour of poker news, entertainment, and lots of Sin City surprises. The phone lines are open at 702-731-1230. That's 702-731-1230. Or toll free. 1-866-820-5528. That's 1-866-820-KLAV. Now let's bring on the host. Here is Mark Hoke.
All right, everybody, how we doing?
Fantastic.
Oh, I'm awake. Hey, yeah, somebody let that guy in here too. We got a party going on in the studio. I mean, this is just outstanding because, of course, the main event wrapping up yesterday from the World Series of Poker, and we just let's just invite everybody into the studio today, just for fun. We have a packed house here on the Mark Hoke Show. Nate Down, of course, co-host. Nate, what's up?
What's up? How do you win $10 million, Mark?
You play like Martin Jacobson did.
Flop a set of tens.
That didn't hurt. That didn't hurt. Joe Payne as well, of course.
Thank you. And it's a great day for poker.
It is.
It is.
It is. We're having a great time here. It was a wonderful evening yesterday. And, of course, 3 great guests in studio. It's a new record.
Is this it? Is this a new record?
I think this is a new record. And, if Jacobson would have gotten up an hour later, we might have had him in here too, or an hour earlier. But that's all right. Dutch Boyd here, 3-time World Series Poker Bracelet winner, author of the book Poker Tilt.
What's up, listeners? Hey, Mark.
How are you?
Pretty good. Glad to be on the show.
Yeah, way to make it on time last night.
Yeah,
Dutch literally showed up at the last hand last night.
We walked in as Felix is shoving all in, and we got to see the most exciting part. It was pretty fun. I was there with Michelle and Yuval Bronstein, a pretty talented player, and yeah, it was great. Lots of excitement, pyrotechnics, fireworks. It was. It really is, living vicariously. Everyone dreams of winning that main event, and watching Martin Jacobson win it. I mean, I'm so jealous. It's just like you watch it, and it's just elation over his face, and he just looks like he's just in this bubble of happiness that, man, I want to win that so bad. But it really did. Like I got really happy too, just watching it.
Yeah, amazing.
It's a little nicer than the ones I've got, for sure.
Yeah, that bracelet was monstrous. Monstrous. I loved it. And, of course, we also welcome our gentlemen from CasinoCity.com. This is very happy to have these guys in here. And I had to let them in because, they let me share that bench with them when I got there, had to get there late on Monday night. So, of course, Aaron Todd, the senior editor. Welcome, Aaron.
Thanks, Mark.
And, of course, we got the mighty Vin here, oh, God, I'm going to butcher it because I'm so asleep. I even wrote it down. Vin Narayanan. Narayanan. Thank you.
You were right, Nate. He was gonna butcher it.
It's so bad.
It is good to be
Vin and I have drank together.
Yes, we have.
And obviously he's still drinking.
Yeah.
You probably do better with his name if you had been drinking earlier today.
That's a good point. That is a good
But it is
point.
good to be on the #1 poker show in the world.
You betcha. You betcha. Of course, Vin is the editor-in-chief there, too. So we were all hanging out at the World Series, having a great time covering the main event. And speaking of that, why don't we do a fast read here and get it rolling?
Scanning the poker tables from around the world. This is The Read, brought to you by the Nevada Poker League. Play poker for free and win cash at locations all across Las Vegas. Visit NevadaPokerLeague.com today.
Wow, do I need to get some sleep. It's just not good. I'm a mess, guys. I'm sorry. Hey, of course, not a lot of news, but the big ones happened. Of course, Poker Hall of Fame ceremonies took place on Sunday. Really enjoyed that. Daniel Negreanu and Jack McClellan were, of course, inducted. Amazing introductory speeches for those guys.
Phil Hellmuth was prepared.
Phil was very prepared. So was Brian, who was inducting Daniel Negreanu. Those took longer than the actual speeches themselves from the inductees, but it was a great night over there. We want to congratulate both. And, of course, we had Jack on the show last week, so if you want to listen to that podcast, that's available at markhokeshow.podbean.com or iTunes. And, of course, we have a new world champion, Martin Jacobson, winning the main event last night, outlasting Felix Stevenson. We actually, for the first time, had the final three were all non-Americans in the history of the World Series Poker main event, and only the second time the two Europeans were battling it out heads up for the title. So congratulations to those guys, and amazing tournament over the past couple of days. But thank God it's over. we are all free until next summer. But of course, one of the big stories coming out of that, guys, and I want to I kind of want to talk about each of these players a little bit as we went through. But Mark Newhouse, and I want to look, Dutch. I want to go to you on this first. Mark Newhouse, a guy who's an amazing player, finishes 9th for the second year in a row. People even popping that tweet up that he had that with a little profanity in it that said on registration day, I'm not finishing 9th this year. Your thoughts on Mark Newhouse's accomplishments here, and what the image of it is going to be going forward with him finishing 9th.
Oh my gosh, what a disaster! What a disaster that was, Mark. I was so sad to see it. I've known Newhouse for a long time, and I can't imagine how bad that must have felt. He's going to take a lot of criticism for anything negative he says. People are going to say, "Oh, boo-hoo! I just got 9th in the main event twice," but it's devastating.
Yeah,
it's devastating. I mean, like to do it once and then you go out 9th after 3 months of preparing in 2013, and then you think about it takes a few days for it to actually settle in, and you realize, oh wow, that was a huge missed opportunity that I'll probably never get back.
Right.
And you beat yourself up for months. I'm sure he was super depressed for a while. And then he just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do my best, try again. Maybe one day, sometime in my life I'll get another shot. And then he does, right? And then he has another 3 months to prepare and look forward to it. And disaster.
Yeah.
The absolute disaster. And I got to think, like, how much did he win the first time? It was probably more than he won last night, right?
I think
because
so, yeah.
of the super top heavy prize.
Right.
Which I think was a pretty bad idea, honestly. A $5 million spread between Felix and Martin is a little bit excessive, but wow, I'm surprised that he got up to tweet.
I know.
I if it was me, I think there'd be a non-0% chance that I'm just jumping from the strat. Like how disappointing that must feel. Like I can't even imagine it. I can't even imagine how much of it's horrible.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the hand too, Mark. Let's talk about the hand, right?
Well, first, before we talk about the hand, I want to make sure, because I almost skipped over Katie Stone, and the Grindettes is on the line too for our Grindettes segment as well. We got to make sure we say hi to Katie. Katie, how are you?
How are you?
Good. And let me get your thoughts real quick about Mark Newhouse, who I know that we were looking forward to seeing him possibly win this thing, but also Martin Jacobson, the winner. Tell me a little bit about your perspective on what happened with both of those guys in this thing.
Well, when I didn't watch the whole final table, but I obviously watched a lot of it, and I just can remember thinking that when he jammed the river there, I literally just remember thinking, in a few seconds, there's not going to be any person in this world that hates their life more than this man. Ugh. And because, it was obvious he was going to bust. And, to be able to make it through a field like that twice in one lifetime, much less doing it back-to-back, it's just, obviously, mathematically speaking, it doesn't happen very often.
No, it's ridiculous.
And so I really do think that he probably hated his life more than any other person in the world at that moment, because, it's very possible that he'll never even cash again in the main event. That's possible. That's, so I felt really bad for him. I don't know him personally. I don't know anything about his playing style or anything like that. I know he's been playing poker for a really long time, and I remember, seeing him post things on 2+2, back in, 06, 07, 08, and stuff like that. So I know he's been around for a really long time.
Yeah, and and I know that you playing online, you're familiar with some of the European guys and some of these other guys that succeeded. But your thoughts on Martin Jacobson as a champion?
Yeah, I mean, Martin Jacobson, he's been around for a while. He's been doing really well in EPTs for a while. I actually, honestly, I thought that he had won an EPT title, and then I didn't realize it, and then I read something today that the main event was actually his first major win. I really thought he had another one under his belt, but yeah, I mean, just everybody knows who he is online. He's just a very, very talented person, and I remember even when he started, I remember seeing him online even back in 2009, 2010 when I was full-time online. And I remember actually adding him to. I don't know if you remember this infamous hottest guys in poker list that I created in 2011, I think, and I believe I added him to that in 2012. But yeah, so he's been around for a while. He's been crushing for a long time, and anybody who knows poker and plays poker at a high level professionally really knows that even though he went into the final table short stacked, he had very good chances to win. And even if you remember, Mark, when I guess like one of the last shows that we did live from the Rio as the World Series was coming to an end, you asked me who my prediction was, and I said, I know he's short, but I think he's going to win, and it was Martin Jacobson.
Yep. So great perspective on Mark and Martin. Katie, I want to thank you for calling in. I do appreciate it. Hey, I'll see you in Florida in a few weeks, right?
I know, really exciting. I can't wait. I just, it's going to be an unbelievable experience. So I'm pretty excited. Yeah,
we'll be at the Poker Night in America tapings down there, having a great time, and Katie will be on Poker Night in America. Yeah, Grindette power, baby. You better believe it. Okay, hey, thanks for calling in. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
All right. Make sure you follow the Grindettes at Grindettes on Twitter, Grindettes on Facebook, and Grindettes.com. Yeah, well, Dutch, let's get back to real quick your point about the hand there, and Katie mentioned it too. Katie saw impending doom on that. Briefly tell us about your thoughts on that hand.
Okay, so just to make sure everyone's on the same page, here's how the hand went down. Right, you have Van Hoof raising $1.1 million. And then Newhouse calls in the cutoff, and he has tens. It folds around to Tonking, who's in the small blind, who re-raises with queens. They lose Van Hoof. Newhouse calls. So at this point, they have $3.75 million each into the pot. Starting to get a little bit serious. The flop comes out Jack 4-2. Then Tonking leads in for less than he raised pre-flop, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that.
And Newhouse gives the call. And at this point, I'm pretty sure, Newhouse must think his tens are ahead, right? The 4 comes on the turn, and Tonking checks. Newhouse goes ahead and fires out a $4.5 million bet, which seems to me, so it's Jack 4-4-2 on the turn on the board. It seems to me that must be a value bet, right? So Tonking, he has this pained look. He calls out. The $4.5 million, and the final card comes, the river, which is another jack. So pairs the jack. So it's Jack 4-4-2. Newhouse is sitting here with tens. I think Tonking checks to him.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so Newhouse is sitting there with pocket tens, thinking it's the best hand.
With less than $11 million and sitting in front of him, but what does he think that he's being called by?
He's thinking he's getting called by a lower pair. 9s, 8s, 7s, 6s, 5s, or he's going to get called by an ace high. He's going to get called by ace king or ace queen. Mm-hmm. He underrepresented his hand, really, and now he's value betting. He's pushing the rest of his stack in, knowing the guy's going to call with 8s, knowing the guy's going to call with 9s, and not putting the guy on queens.
Yeah.
And it was, hearing a couple people talk about how, he turned his hand into a bluff. No, he didn't. Right. I haven't talked to Mark about this hand, so maybe I'm completely misreading the situation here, and maybe Mark made such a good read that he had queens or kings and thought that he'd be able to get him off of it. There's no way.
Well, in the post-tournament bust-out interview, actually, he did say He said, once he called on the turn, I put him on about what he had. He said, I thought he had kings, queens.
So in the post-interview, he said that he was trying to bluff it?
He said that he completely planned to shut down on the river and just check it down. And when the jack came, he said he felt like he should have a lot of jacks in his range here. And it gave him the opportunity to turn his hand into a bluff. That's how he explained it in the post-tournament bust-out interview.
Well, I really like the play as a value bet. I hate the play as a bluff, though. How are you going to get a guy off of queens or kings or aces? I just don't see it.
Yeah, and it was a very interesting time in the room too, because when Mark busted out, and Vin, you could probably vouch for this. When he busted out, I mean, just the air came out of the room for a while. I mean, it was just a feeling of, did that just really happen in there?
Well, I think there was just a sense of devastation and disappointment on the people watching that he had to go through it again.
Yeah.
I mean, to a certain degree, we now know what an Olympic athlete feels like when they devote all of their life for that one moment and it just disappears right in front of them. And it's hard for us to put ourselves in those shoes, but for that moment, everyone in the audience and everyone in press row could put themselves in those shoes and say, I can't believe it happened to him again. Yeah. And so the air got sucked out of the room a little bit, but only among the people playing. On the table, things went on like nothing happened. I mean, and to that degree, poker's a bit of a cruel game, right? Guy went out, game moves on. But for the people watching, there was this sense of devastation and loss, saying, I can't believe it happened to him again.
Yeah, and Joe, looking at Mark Newhouse moving forward, how do you see him being perceived at this point? Here's a guy that did something that no one is probably ever going to do again in the history of this game, but people are going to be looking at him as he's a guy that finished ninth twice. Where do you think he's going to fit into poker history, and how does he move forward?
I still think that he's going to be looked upon as a great player who's, as everyone said here, went through two massive fields to get there. I watched that hand. I watched it on a 30-minute delay. I didn't go down to the Rio. And I'm going to ask Dutch this question. Dutch, if you're in Tonklin's position there, do you even consider folding to his all-in push there with queens, or is it possible he could have a better hand than him at that point? Because I'm not really upset with the play by Newhouse, because there is a possibility that Tonklin folds there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And he looks like, and if he folds, Newhouse looks like a hero. Mm-hmm. Newhouse looks like, oh my God, what an incredible play to be able, especially the fact that he's finished ninth. There's great expectations from this year. I personally bet on him at plus 450 to win the thing. So I was really disappointed in seeing him going out ninth. But so I had a little more vested interest in it. But I don't think it's going to taint his reputation. I think he's a proven, accomplished tournament player. Whether he went out ninth, second, third, or won the event. Obviously, if he won the event, it would really be good. But I don't think it takes anything away from him. It was everyone at that table made a misstep somewhere in that tournament. You just cannot play flawlessly. Everyone played excellent, and there were a couple of just small errors. But he made him an error in maybe a read that he had on Tonklin. Do you think, Dutch?
I don't know. I disagree with you, though, because I don't think that people are going to remember what happened as back-to-back final tables. They're going to remember it as back-to-back ninths. And they're going to remember this as basically the biggest blow-up in poker history. That's what they're going to remember it as. And it's going to be a shame, because Mark is very talented. He did something really amazing. But that's how people are going to remember it.
Do you think people are not going to look upon Van Hoof of blowing a massive chip lead at the final table?
I don't think anyone's going to remember second or third or fourth or fifth all the way down the line. But they're going to remember Newhouse coming in ninth.
Because there were tweets, I think Madison himself said, if he doesn't win this is going to be a complete blow-up. When talking about Van Hoof, when he had over 100 million, he had more than 50% of the chips when they were four-handed.
I don't know if I agree with that. But wait, we got plenty of show. Yeah. We got plenty of show to hit all this. We need to take a commercial break, and we come back. The whole crew hanging out here. So stick around, everybody. We'll be right back.
PokerShop.com is your one-stop shop for all your poker and game room needs. PokerShop.com has you covered with an incredible variety of poker chips and supplies, top quality playing cards, plus gaming tables and room accessories, just like you'd find in your favorite casino. And if you're looking to spruce up your man cave, we offer a wide selection of decor options, from lighting to mirrors and portable bars to bub stools, to make your game room the one all your friends and family will be talking about. So for everything you need to make your game night a great night, go to www.pokershop.com and receive 10% off your purchase with the code HOKE, H-O-K-E. You supply your friends, we supply everything else. Live it, love it. PokerShop.com.
One man, his lucky shirt, an unforgettable night, and a winning streak that never seemed to end. That's how Blind Squirrel began, and we haven't looked back since. We make the clothes that we want to wear for the places where we want to look and feel our best. The game, the speakeasy, and the casino floor. Blind Squirrel's small batch, high-quality gear is for people too busy grabbing life by the nuts to bother with crappy, ill-fitting clothing. Because like you, we prefer our nights long, our drinks strong, and our lucky shirt to be our most comfortable. So look good, be lucky, and visit BlindSquirrelApparel.com for your new favorite shirt. As an added bonus, you'll receive 20% off your purchase with the promo code HOKE, H-O-K-E. You can also pick up Blind Squirrel apparel at the Borgata in Atlantic City and in Las Vegas at all Masura stores at Mandalay Bay, Monte Carlo, The Mirage, and MGM Grand. Look good and be lucky with Blind Squirrel Apparel.
I'm Dutch Boyd, two-time WSOP bracelet winner, and I want to share my story with you. 12 years as a pro has taught me a lot. For the last year, I've boiled it all down into a tell-all book, 90,000 words. In Poker Tilt, I take you on my journey through all the ups and downs that poker has to offer, all the manic highs and hellish lows of every bad beat and lucky draw. So go to www.pokertilt.com to read more, or just go buy the new book on Amazon or Kindle right now, pokertilt.com. I guarantee you'll enjoy the ride.
It's time for you to check out RogueWire.com. News, sports, entertainment, and the internet home of The Mark Hoke Show. Don't wait. Let the sparks fly from your computer at RogueWire.com. And of course, RogueWire.com is powered by BlueRail.net. For over 2 years, The Mark Hoke Show has trusted BlueRail.net as their exclusive host, and you can too. Visit BlueRail.net for top-level web hosting, website building and maintenance, one-on-one customer service, and much more. It's time to get on board with your winning combination. BlueRail.net and RogueWire.com. How far do you want to go?
RunGoodGear.com is one of poker's premier online stores for apparel. Their mission is to provide poker players with stylish and comfortable clothes for their daily grind. You've probably seen Run Good Gear at the World Series of Poker through Run Good Poker Pro Rob Salaburo, or around the country through the WSOP circuit. Today, RunGoodGear.com is the place to go to gear up for the poker felt. So go there now with the promo code HOKE, that's H-O-K-E, for 10% off your entire online purchase. Remember Hoke. Now, go gear up. There's nothing better than sitting down to play poker with good friends and cutting loose. And that's what you're going to find when you tune in to Poker Night in America. Poker Night in America is revolutionizing televised poker in a big way. With all the action you love and the hilarious fun you've been missing. Come take a seat at the table with all your favorite players, old and new, with Poker Night in America. Sunday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on CBS Sports Network. And don't forget to visit the show online at PokerNight.com. So pull up a chair and join us Sundays on Poker Night in America.
Want more of The Mark Hoke Show? Then follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show and like our Facebook page at The Mark Hoke Show for show news and outstanding poker content from around the world. Plus, enjoy the show anytime by subscribing to our podcasts on iTunes or at markhokeshow.podbean.com. We're even on your mobile phone at markhokeshow.podbean.com/mobile. Thanks for listening and being a part of The Mark Hoke Show.
Now, let's return to The Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Here again, your host, Mark Hoke.
And we are back on The Mark Hoke Show, the best in poker news and entertainment when I'm on my game. If not, I have to have everybody save me after I dig myself a hole. It's a lot of fun. But we're having a great time, of course, talking about the World Series Poker Main Event. Wrapping up this week, Martin Jacobson, the champion. And we got to remind everyone, of course, that the Mark Hoke Show is powered by BlueRail.net and brought to you by Blind Squirrel Apparel, the Nevada Poker League, PokerShop.com, the new book Poker Tilt by Dutch Boyd, who's in studio right now. Awesome book.
It's a great book.
You're
I
the man.
really recommend everybody to buy 2 copies.
Buy 5. It's Christmas time.
Read it a few times.
Pass them out at Thanksgiving, you know.
It might be the best book I've ever read.
Is that a little bias?
Oh, my God. Slightly. And, of course, RogueWire.com and ABC Chinese Poker. Hey, the app, by the way, just got updated, so make sure you guys go and download that today. So we don't want to beat Mark Newhouse's hand up too much here, so let's kind of move forward a little bit, guys.
Before we go on, I just have to say, 9 over at the Palms, the steakhouse, should talk to Newhouse about sponsorship.
Oh.
Wow.
It's not a bad idea, though.
Well, too soon.
Low blow.
Too soon. And of course, Bruno Politano went out in 8th and had a great contingency there. One thing, and you guys, I want to get your thoughts on this. They had a little feud going on there with the talking fans with the Brazil USA chance. It seemed like it was getting a little heated in there. Did you guys pick that up?
I just thought they were getting loud because that's what drunk people do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of a reaction, I think, after a while, after hearing the Brazilian fans cheer for a really long time, really loudly, in the middle of hands, interrupting play, and I think people were getting frustrated with that. So I don't think it wasn't just Talking's rail that started chanting USA. I think it was all the American players' rails started chanting USA. But in general, I think the Brazilian fans brought a lot of energy. I would have liked to have seen them quiet down a little bit during the hands to let the players really try to focus a little bit more. But one of the reasons the November 9 is great is that you can bring in all these people from faraway places and give them the opportunity to cheer on their friend and their family member that's playing, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and to have the chance to bring all those people there is pretty unique.
And I know you're not supposed to cheer during the hands, but I think it's kind of cool, actually.
Dutch, how do you feel about that? If you're up on that stage and there's people up there cheering during a hand, are you okay with that, or do you want everybody to shut up?
I'm okay with it if they're cheering for me.
But if they're not cheering, let's
if
say they're not cheering,
then it's really demoralizing. Really, there is a home field advantage when it comes to poker. If you have a lot of people on the rail who are cheering for you, it does take the wind out of the opponent's sails, and it's really demoralizing when you're sitting here holding pocket 8s against ace queen and everyone's yelling ace. Everybody in the audience is yelling ace, ace, ace. It's just maybe I want an ace to come too, and it just be over. That's how you end up feeling. So I think there's a lot to poker. It's not just about the players at the table and the cards they're dealt. There's a lot of psychology to it, and when you have a whole room screaming and yelling and rooting against you, it's going to put you off your game a little bit. So I'm all for it. I think it's a good part of the sport. And when you're watching poker, oh man, how boring is that? Especially when you're actually in the the audience, you can't see the whole cards until they're flipped over. That's kind of a boring thing to be doing. So the kind of audience participation, the cheering and the yelling. This isn't a chess match. Once I think it's okay. I think it's good for the game, and I think it's good for the audience. It makes it more of a spectator sport. Definitely makes it easy to be sitting there. I've never been to a tennis match, so maybe it's better just to keep quiet, but I don't think so. I think it's better just to have everyone just rip-roaring yelling.
Okay, fair enough. Then as we worked our way up the ladder here, of course, Dan Sindelar had made one mistake, got bumped out of there, and I think when Antonio Larabe took a lot of flack on Twitter as we were watching this, but I want to come to his defense for just a minute and get your thoughts on this. When Talking took out Newhouse, and at that point he and Van Hoof had taken the chip lead and were in very good shape, and Larabe's stuck in the middle with that. And then you got the two short stacks on the other side. Larabe was in a horrible position there. And, you could just see as it went along, his chips were starting to get dwindled down a little bit. He really didn't have a lot of places to attack because of where he was on the table. And I think he got a little desperate. Would you guys agree with that assessment?
I think so. I mean, the two hands in particular that I saw that were made me scratch my head were the hand where he had a set of 5s, and that was against I think it was against Van Hoof, I believe. I'm failing to remember exactly. Or no, I'm sorry, it was Newhouse. That was against Newhouse. He had a set of 5s, and the board I think was something like King, Jack, 5, 6, 7, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but so the only hands that Newhouse can have that beat him are another set or a straight. And the way the hand played out, it just seemed very clear that Newhouse didn't have any of those hands. And you know, it was checked to him on the river, and he checked, and everyone was kind of shocked. And Newhouse, when I think Newhouse thought he won the hand when he checked back. He turned over his hand. He had, I think he had, I don't know, some medium pair, and you know, the Robbie turned over 2 5s, and he said, "Wow,"
yeah,
and they let it go. So he got a lot of flack for that. Afterwards, he explained that he didn't think that there were many hands that he beat that were going to call him. And the only hands that were going to call or raise were hands that were going to beat him. So that was his explanation. And then also Billy Pappas, had made an opening raise for, I don't remember what the amounts were at the time, but I think it was like 1.2 million, something like that. And he shoved all in for 12 million with King Queen suited, and Pappas immediately flipped over kings and called, and it just seemed like a huge overbet shove. For not a whole lot of reason. So those were 2 plays that I think were questionable. He seemed very confident in his play. He seemed very happy with it. He didn't think he had made a mistake. If you watch the coverage leading up, now obviously this isn't every hand, but if you watch the coverage leading up to the final table, he made a lot of unorthodox plays on the way. So I don't think it should be a surprise that he made some unorthodox plays at the final table.
Yeah, so I think everybody jumping on him as hard as they did may not have been warranted. Now let's move up to Billy Pappas. And Nate, I want to get to you on Billy here. Does Billy come out as, other than Martin winning the tournament, does Billy come out as the biggest winner in this final table?
I think so. Name wise, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting watching Billy as he went through the tournament, because you guys that were in the room saw, he was just down. I mean, he was slumped on the table. As his chips were starting to go down, I mean, he was a mess. And then the people that were there supporting him started to really try and get him going. And then he finally doubled up one hand and doubled up again, and now all of a sudden we got to see the Billy Pappas that everybody was looking forward to seeing.
Well, he was
at
also
the table.
He was also frustrated because, by his own admission, he was playing terribly. He said up until 6-handed play, he said, I was just playing awful. So it wasn't just the circumstances that were frustrating Billy Pappas; it was the way he was playing. He knew he could play better, and all of a sudden he got a double up. He started to feel good about himself, and he just started playing better. And that's when you saw the smile come back, the confidence come back. So his rail played a part of it. Part of it is he caught a hand that he really needed to do, and he started feeling better about himself. And then he started playing well. He started playing the way he expected to play coming in.
Yeah, and well, Dutch, let me ask you this about Billy. Now here's a guy who's a world foosball champion. A lot of hype around that, and now really got to be the fan favorite off this table. Is that something that he can parlay here in the short term?
I mean, I don't know. I think so. Why not? I mean, but it's not like foosball is like a huge sport here in America. I mean, I didn't even know that there were foosball champions before Billy Pappas made the final table. After I saw that he was, a foosball champion, I actually looked on YouTube, and wow, these guys are pretty good. I didn't realize like they could do some pretty amazing things with a foosball table. I wonder like what the world champion of foosball is taking home.
I think he said he makes about $30,000 a year playing foosball.
Wow, that's not bad for playing foosball.
It's pretty bad.
I mean, in the structure of things, it's bad, but for playing foosball,
well, you know what? If you're the best at something, you should be able to make more than what you'd be able to make as McDonald's managers.
No, you can go around hustle a little bit too, pick an extra $20K.
I do think that
Joe's
he can probably parlay this just because it's an interesting story. He's got a catchy name.
He's got the Yoshi hat.
And he's got a personality that I think people will like, but I don't really know. I feel like if he, I guess it's better than like ballroom dancing. If I think that he's going to be. I do think though that he's probably going to be the most memorable one at the final table besides Jacobson and Newhouse. when people remember this final table, I think they will remember Billy Pappas.
I think so too.
It's funny you bring up the figure of $30,000. Prior to the main event, Jacobson's lifetime earnings in tournament play was $30,000, which is
Wait, who?
I think that was Stevenson.
Stevenson was $30,000. So
Jacobson had like $5
Yeah,
million.
so I mean that's pretty impressive to walk into a final table with only having won $30,000 lifetime, and all of a sudden now you're up to $5 million and $30,000.
Yeah, and that's that's not a bad a bad paycheck.
No,
and then we get to Tonking, and probably the most frustrated loser of the night. I know you guys got a chance to go out and see the interview that he did after, and boy, I think somewhat of an opportunity lost for him on that, and boy, he wasn't happy about it.
It's tough. He at one point had a chip lead, and you go from thinking, I started fifth. If you get to the top three, I'm going to be happy. And then once you get the chip lead, you start getting those dreams in your head where, hey, this could be a reality. Things didn't work out for him. Early on, things were going really well, and I think it's almost harder to have that happen, where you start out like gangbusters, you end up with a chip lead, and then you kind of see things dwindling away through your fingertips. His post tournament bust out interview was a little painful. I can't, as media members, of course, I want to have a really polished guy who tells me everything that I want to hear. So I'm selfish in that regard, of course. And he was the king of one-word answers. He was like the Bill Belichick of poker.
Wow. Yeah.
And he's a cash game player who rarely has to answer questions at all about anything, whether he has a good day or a bad day. It's got to be really tough to stand up there and 5 minutes after you've just had your greatest opportunities slip through your fingers. That's got to be difficult. So I can give him a pass for it, but. I think those things are important, and it's a great opportunity. Like, I tweeted last night that Jorrit Van Hoof, he should give a training course in how to handle those situations. He came out and he was very poised. He even was able to laugh a little bit, and I'm sure he was just as disappointed. It's tough to do.
I can tell you guys this, right? As a player who's busted out of a lot of really big events, really deep. It doesn't get easier the deeper you go. And, with Tonking, he comes in fourth. I think he was fifth in chips when the day started. He ended fourth. If someone were to come up to him a week ago and say, "Hey, what would you think about coming in fourth?" He would have been thrilled. He'd been like, "That would be a good result. It'd be a good result. If I come in better than fifth, I'm going to be happy." But when you're actually in the seat, you never frame it as, okay, I just took fourth in the main event out of a million players. You always frame it as, I just took fourth out of 4 players. I just took 3 out of 3. Every single time you bump up, it's always the worst case scenario when you get knocked out. It's always the worst case scenario. It's always, I just took 7th out of 7, or I just took 8th out of 8. And then when you get knocked out, and you got some media guys coming up to you saying, "So how does it feel to get knocked out of the main event?" It's the worst
question ever.
I mean,
it's a terrible question.
I'll tell you, you resent him in that moment. So the best I saw was when Ivy went out. I think it was 7th at the final table.
Yeah,
do you remember that? And so he's kind of just trying to rush out, and he actually takes the back way out of the Rio so that he doesn't have to talk to anybody. But then Joy Miller, I think, was reporting for Bluff, and she's like right there, and she just kind of gets in front of him with the mic. And the look he gave her was so classic. He just looked so irritated. You could tell he just hated everybody with a microphone at that moment.
So, see, I think, but what you actually mentioned something to me that's really interesting, because I think what people forget about when they're watching a poker tournament is they aren't just watching people playing for money; they're watching competitive people who like to win. And so everyone's thinking about the money. It's like, oh, you could have just made the next pay jump, or it just says these are competitors that want to win, and when they lose, you're not going to take it well. Look, I'm a competitive person. When I lose, I don't take it well, and no competitor is going to do it. And then the way Tonking lost he had so many chips. It wasn't just that he finished in 4th. It's just he just had so many chips and just watched them leak away and bleed away slowly. That combination, is just naturally going to be frustrating.
Yeah, there's that old gambling saying, that old gambler saying, "Show me a good loser and I'll show you a loser." It's true. And, some guy who could just shrug off losing like it's nothing. This is normal. That's going to be always a good guy to have at your table, because it hurts to lose. It hurts more to lose than it feels good to win. And that's just one of those weird, sad truths of poker. So you can't really fault a guy for not being funny when he gets knocked out.
Very much agreed. Hey, let's get our commercial break in, and we're going to come back and break down the rest of the final table right after this. Hi everyone, Mark here. If you're a poker player like me and looking for something different and exciting to play, you should give open-faced Chinese poker a shot. It has just the right mix of skill, luck, plus a huge dose of the fun factor we're all looking for. There's a reason open-faced Chinese poker has everyone from the recreational player to the top pros hooked on its thrills, action, and unique social interactions you won't find in Hold'em. An incredible game like this has got to be worth checking out. And it's easy to learn, especially by using the ABC Chinese Poker app. Download the ABC Chinese Poker app on iTunes today and find out what everyone's talking about. And if you have questions about the game, tweet at ABC Chinese Poker and they'll be glad to help you along. So join the open-faced Chinese poker community today with the ABC Chinese Poker app, and we'll see you at the tables.
Nevada poker players, it's time to get in the game with the Nevada Poker League. Play for free to win cash at every location, plus you also can win poker cruises and even a $10,000 World Series of Poker main event seat. It's a great way to play poker at no risk, make new friends, and build up your poker bankroll. The Nevada Poker League is never closed and is running games 7 days a week at a location near you. So what are you waiting for? Visit the NevadaPokerLeague.com right now for all the info. Don't wait. Play poker for free and cash in today with your friends at the Nevada Poker League.
There's nothing better than sitting down to play poker with good friends and cutting loose. And that's what you're going to find when you tune in to Poker Night in America. Poker Night in America is revolutionizing televised poker in a big way, with all the action you love and the hilarious fun you've been missing. Come take a seat at the table with all your favorite players, old and new, with Poker Night in America. Sunday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on CBS Sports Network. And don't forget to visit the show online at pokernight.com. So pull up a chair and join us Sundays on Poker Night in America.
It's time for you to check out RogueWire.com. News, sports, entertainment, and the internet home of The Mark Hoke Show. Don't wait. Let the sparks fly from your computer at RogueWire.com. And of course, RogueWire.com is powered by BlueRail.net. For over 2 years, The Mark Hoke Show has trusted BlueRail.net as their exclusive host, and you can too. Visit BlueRail.net for top-level web hosting, website building and maintenance, one-on-one customer service, and much more. It's time to get on board with your winning combination, BlueRail.net and RogueWire.com. How far do you want to go?
Want more of The Mark Hoke Show? Then follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show and like our Facebook page at The Mark Hoke Show for show news and outstanding poker content from around the world. Plus, enjoy the show anytime by subscribing to our podcasts on iTunes or at markhokeshow.podbean.com. We're even on your mobile phone at markhokeshow.podbean.com/mobile. Thanks for listening and being a part of The Mark Hoke Show.
Now, let's return to The Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Here again, your host, Mark Hoke.
And we are back. Of course, special guest Vin and Aaron from CasinoCity.com. Awesome website. Make sure you guys check it out. Dutch Boyd in here three-time World Series poker.
Always good to be on The Mark Hoke Show.
God, I love having you here. It's always a blast. You're my hero, buddy. And, of course, Joe Payne and Nate Dowland, the co-hosts, along for the ride as we're breaking down the World Series of Poker Main Event Championship. Okay, Nate, I'm going to throw this in because you love to bust people's chops. Van Hoof.
Van Hoover?
Just got outplayed or blew up? What do you think?
He was no longer getting cards. Day two, he got no cards. He didn't get the cards that he was getting on day one. Day one played itself. His cards spoke for themselves. He didn't have the ability to do anything on day two because he didn't know how to play cards. Just my opinion.
There you go. Well, and Joe, of course, let me ask you about the sunglasses. I don't really think it was that much of a factor, but is it a distraction? Because he said he eventually said that he wore them because on the second day because the lights were giving him trouble, and then after a while he threw them away. Do you change that up at a table?
No, and actually it was funny because when I was watching day two last night, I thought that he had in my opinion, he had an incredible read on Stevenson, who was sitting directly to his right. I mean, there were times where he came over the top on him, and he didn't really have that big of a hand, but it looked like he had a 100% read on him. And then the second day he shows up with the glasses on, and it was like, did one of his handlers or one of his people tell him that you're giving something away with your
I was curious about that too.
I thought maybe that was, but then he eventually wound up taking them off as we got deeper into day 2. So, because you were talking about who was in a bad spot, I think Stevenson was in a real bad spot because Van Hoof seemed to have him crushed at every time he tried to make a move.
Yeah, I mean, Stevenson came back and played very well on the second day, and I think a lot of people thought he was going to get buried there. But he played some spectacular poker and really put Van Hoof on his heels for sure. Yeah, I thought so.
I think one of the things that's really hard for us to appreciate is just how tough it is to sit up on that stage under those lights. Because, I mean, he talked about what he'd gone through the first day of final table play. He was in a different seat. The second day, the light was actually right in his face. But more importantly, you've got the TV timeouts, you've got the light, you've got it's just an uncomfortable environment and hard to get into a rhythm. And more than one player complained about that. It's not the natural way of playing poker, and a lot of them had a tough time coping with it.
Dutch, is that a problem? I mean, do you think that it was legitimately a factor or not?
I don't know if I would say it's a problem. It is different playing on a TV table, and it takes some getting used to. I definitely feel like it gives players who have been in that situation a bit of an advantage because when you have it's just human nature that when you have a camera on you and when you have a lot of people watching you, you're going to be playing differently. As far as the sunglasses go, was that a factor? I don't know. When I was watching the heads up match and saw Jacobson without the sunglasses and Felix with him, I kind of felt like it was over at that point. I didn't even disregarding any of the chip stack or anything like that. There's just a certain level of confidence that Martin had at the table, being able to look the guy right in the eye. And then it was interesting because he would look at him and stare at him in the eye, even though he was wearing sunglasses. That's pretty intimidating when you feel like you have a shield on and the guy can still see through you. And I don't know, as far as sunglasses at the table, the lights aren't that bright that you really need them. I think that I think that they're more so that you feel like you're not giving anything away with eye tells, which are more important. And eye tells are really hard to hide. And when you have a good hand, your eyes get a little bit bigger. When you're bluffing, they get a little shiftier. That's a tough one to get out of your game.
Where does Felix Stevenson go? Let me ask you, Vin. Where does Felix Stevenson go from here? I mean, this is, I think one issue for him, he was all covered up, so people aren't going to know who he is for the most part. He gets to be the bridesmaid here. What do you think about his career potential at this point?
I don't think he really cares, and I think that's I think that's actually a really good thing. I mean, he's from Norway; they've got online poker there. He had a good time. He's gonna, I think Betson was his sponsor. I think that's who he had on the hoodie. BetSafe. But he had a sponsor, and he's going to do well because he's in Norway. And how many top-notch poker pros are in Norway? So he's going to be the best. Anyone that's targeting the Norwegian market's going to want him as a sponsor. He's going to be a national hero in the poker community there. And so that's good. I mean, I don't think he's got any issues in terms of moving forward and how he presented himself. I think he did really well. And the fact of the matter is he played really well. He didn't just play really well at the final table. He played really well all tournament long. And if you take a look at this final table, one of the things that struck me was it was a really well-played final table outside of a couple hands here or there. It was the quality of poker was really high. And so you have to appreciate that. And I think people are going to respect and appreciate Felix's game for that.
Now, and of course, speaking of that quality of poker, now, as we went through this final table, there was one guy that really survived making that one mistake, and that was Jacobson. Everybody else, it seemed to me, when they tripped up, it started that trickle to be see you later time. And Jacobson was down to about 6 million in chips at one point and manages to come back and win this thing. And a lot of people knew that Martin was an outstanding short stack player coming in here. And then just once he got rolling, never looked back. Dutch, let me ask you on his game, how much respect does he now have in the poker community? Because we've seen guys come out of this thing that say, "Oh, he was a luck box and won it." Where does this put Jacobson now?
We have seen that, right? Jamie Gold, sure. The one the example that comes to my mind is Kata. And I love Joe. He's great. He's a great poker player, great commentator. He's awesome. But I mean, he had under pairs versus over pairs all in for his tournament life. I think 3-4 times
I think
in the final table.
times. Yeah.
So I mean, that was kind of luck boxing into it. You got Martin though. I don't think anyone's going to look at this as a fluke. Anybody, he was even coming in. What was it? 8th in chips.
8th. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Even coming in 8th in chips. Most of the pros looking at this final table saw him as being a real solid contender. And I didn't bet on it like Joe, but if I was gonna have bet on it, I would have bet for Newhouse as well. Yeah. I also would have put a little bit of money on Martin, and those would have been the only two. I might have put a little bit on Billy Pappas.
You know what was impressive as far as table demeanor, in my opinion, was Felix looked the same over 2 complete days. You could have had a cardboard cutout, and you wouldn't have known whether it was Felix or the cardboard cutout because he did not change. The only movement you saw is when he went to just move chips. Other than that, his posture, which I think in Dutch as a player, I think that's so strong to be able to keep the same posture, pose, demeanor, because you can't give out any sort of tells when you're doing that. You agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it looked like Felix had a little bit of help on the rail. He had Scott Seaver kind of coaching him between hands. So I think that I would be interested as a player to know what exactly all these guys did leading up to the final table to get ready. Yeah. Because I have a feeling that some of them did a little more than others. It looked like Felix probably actually reached out to Scott and said, I would like a little bit of help with my game. I respect yours, so let's do some work. I remember when Jeff Schulman made the final table, and he had like Phil Helmuth and a whole crew of people just spending weeks with him, trying to train him up and get him ready for the that important day. Playing just 9-handed and each taking a role as one of the players that he was up against. So I have a feeling that some of these players just did nothing, and did nothing except go around, do some interviews, and try to take advantage of the spotlight. And I imagine that a few of them are thinking that they could have done a little more.
Well, if you last night when I was talking to all the three players that were involved, that was one of the things I asked them. And if you little self-plug here. If you go to CasinoCityTimes.com today, I have a story about what they did. And, they all did a lot of work. They all had a lot of help on the rail. They had, Jort Van Hoof had a team looking at every hand and then distilling that information down. And he actually had a captain who said, this is the information he needs to know. And then Martin Jacobson said, what I really need to work on is my heads-up game, because all that really matters here is when it gets to be heads up, there's a $5 million heads up match. So that's where I need to improve the most. So he worked really, really hard in his heads up game. They didn't play a ton of heads up, and Felix never had really enough chips to make a huge difference. But that had to make him really confident going into the heads up portion of the tournament.
It's definitely a different game now with the live feed and being able to actually see what's happening basically in real time. Real time enough so like when you get on every break, you can get there and kind of get the information. It makes a huge difference. So it doesn't surprise me that you'd have the top 3 guys doing quite a bit. I'd be really interested to know how some of these other guys did.
Yeah, Newhouse didn't do anything. He hardly played. He said he didn't do anything. Billy Pappas, I know, didn't do anything. I'm not exactly sure about the rest, but
Dutch, do you think the 30-minute delay? Do you think that's unfair to certain players as far as?
No, it's not unfair to anybody because everyone has the same. Everyone is playing the same game, so maybe someone has a little bit extra help, but it's fair that unfair. The other guy doesn't have any friends who can help him. It's just part of life.
Yep. Well, speaking of part of life, hey, I want to thank all of you guys for coming into the show today. A blast!
Oh, it's fun.
Great discussion.
We could have done a 3-hour show today.
Oh, we could have done it all. Yeah, we could have. Wow, I'm stumbling all over the place. But I do want to make sure, guys, we're going to be at Seminole Hard Rock. We got the Poker Night in America tapings, plus we're covering the Seminole Hard Rock Rock and Roll Poker Open. So go to markhokeshow.com. And, of course, we'll have the schedules up on Facebook and Twitter for you, too. So make sure you catch us there. As a great World Series, congratulations to Martin Jacobson, your champ. And make sure you catch us next week. We're going to have Chad Holloway calling into the show. So it should be a good one. We'll see you later. Have a great afternoon.